Okay, hello everybody. I don't know how long trying to come up with find a video that explains audience analysis, and I just kept thinking, gosh, I should just make my own. And okay, so I'm going ahead and I'm making my own. Nothing quite worked well, so this is going to be more like a lecture cast than an actual video, but I'm going to go through my slides and explain a little bit about audience analysis, how it specifically applies in the business world. So this is a great quote that I always like to think about, and people are different in how they perceive, what they value, what they care about, and how they make decisions. But there's one universal to count on: self-interest. We react to things and make decisions based on what's in it for me. And that was written by the author of Business Writing Today, which is a textbook often used in business communication classes. All of that to say, what you write and what you speak of, it falls completely flat unless it's speaking to the person who wants to hear it. And we need to figure out who that person is, who that audience is, in order for us to actually put something together. We have to know our end result before we can make a start to get there. And so really focus on the audience. How you show respect for your audience is going to matter. One of the first things you want to do is cut the filler. How much does the person need to know, expect to be told? Leave it at that. We don't want to fill up their time with a bunch of junk. We've got, a lot of email coming in. We've got a lot of things on our plate. We need to be as concise and to the point as we can be. Another thing you want to do is ditch the dramatic lead up or the long introduction. In the language of journalism, we call that the lead. You don't want to bury the lead. You don't want to put the most important thing later on. So bring that important information up front. Get that attention right away. Offer the issue and then explain the reasons. So there's an asterisk here because when we get into persuasion, we are actually going to do the opposite. In this case, we're informing. The purpose of our communication is to have someone understand something, not to make them change or make them agree. So we can do it. Just tell them what they need to know and then go into here's why. Skip the background and the introduction if it's not needed. So here's an original. After much work and revision and over 2 years of planning, a comprehensive new parking policy has been unveiled. I'd like to thank all of those who have provided feedback as these plans were developed. Money collected for the permits will be used directly to offset new commute initiatives such as purchase of new bike racks, free bus passes, and van pools. We will all benefit from this new policy. If you do drive to the office and park in the garage, you will need to purchase a new permit. Failure to do so may result in costly parking tickets. The deadline for purchase and display of permits is February 20th. Okay, so in this, we obviously know they're probably trying to tell us information about an idea that maybe we don't like. Maybe we're kind of hostile. We don't like change. We don't want to know about a new parking policy. So they put a lot of that information up first. Well, really the most important thing for us is if we drive to the office and park in the garage, I'll need a new permit. That's the most important thing. We don't want that hidden. Bring that up front. New parking regulations will soon go into effect, and all employees who park in the garage will need to purchase and display their new permits on February 20th. Failure to do so may result in costly parking tickets. There we go. That's what we need to know right up front. And then we can get rid of some of that extra filler and just direct somewhere else where they can read more if they want to. Maybe we don't want to spend our time reading that. Refer to the parking manual on the company website for more information on the policy and alternative benefits made possible by these changes. Much more to the point. You also want to avoid no. People do not like being told no. There's always going to be a negative response to negatively framed things. People get defensive. And that's a weird thing about us, but it doesn't mean we can't give bad news. It doesn't mean you have to just agree to everything. It just means we have to frame the negativity carefully. So instead of saying don't do something, say what you should do instead. For instance, we have spent significant amounts of time raising our profile in this new market and have seen a huge increase in sales. but our reputation is still growing and is fragile. Customers will not return if their needs are not met. Be advised, I will tolerate no out-of-stock situations on any category for any reason in this market. Please review this with your salespeople and ensure that they continue to do an outstanding job. Well, they just put me in a bad place. I was so worried. Customers aren't going to return. He's not going to tolerate any, under no circumstances. Oh, you're also doing a good job. We need to work on reframing that a little bit better to not completely turn off our reader and make us defensive. I will tolerate no out of stock. But still important. That's still an important negative feeling that needs to get across. How can we reframe that? Here we go. We have spent significant amounts of money raising our profile in this new market, and we've seen a huge increase in sales. Great, awesome. Because of this increase, we are concerned about maintaining our stock levels. Please review our anticipated needs with your stock people to ensure that all of our stores in this market are fully stocked. We appreciate the outstanding job you have done in this and know that we can count on your cooperation during this important expansion period. So again, giving credit to the people for doing an outstanding job, but instead of saying have no out-of-stock items, say we should make sure we are fully stocked. Watch the negatives. You also want to avoid I and me. So reframe your statements how something affects the reader. Speak to that reader's self-interest. What is in it for them? Even if it is about you. You are canceling a meeting, well, what about that does it matter to them? I'm writing to tell you that a change in my schedule here at XYZ Corporation makes it impossible for me to keep our appointment next Wednesday. I am really disappointed. I was looking forward to coming to Los Angeles. I feel inconvenienced, but I hope we can work out another appointment. Please let me know on what date we can rearrange a new meeting. How would you feel if you made an appointment with someone and they canceled and all they could talk about is how they're disappointed? Have they made any acknowledgement that I had to change something about my schedule? No. We want to rephrase it and have that person understand what's in it for them. All these I's, all this me, that doesn't help your reader. Rephrase it. A change in my schedule here at XY Corporation makes it impossible for me to keep our appointment. Please accept my apology. I hope this change will not inconvenience you and that you will consider setting another appointment with me. I'll call you in a day or two. So again, taking on the responsibility for yourself and not assuming that they will take that responsibility on. Another thing to keep in mind with audience is the audience demographics. What traits can influence their perception of you? So you'll have to consider this when you're talking about, am I talking to a colleague? Am I talking to a superior? Am I talking to a client? These are the things you need to keep in mind. What are the traits these people have? For instance, what is their age? What is their gender? What is their culture? Those may affect how they are perceiving things. This is careful. You don't want to get into stereotypes of, young people won't understand if I say this. But it is important to keep in mind some of those basic facts. How you would talk to a high schooler would be different than how you would talk to a college student. There will be many high schoolers who are, really advanced, but, just keep those generalities in mind. And also be aware that they're going to have values that will influence how they perceive you. They'll have different principles and expectations and different goals. Keep the end goal of those people in mind when talking about, whatever you need to communicate with them. If you know that you are talking to a business that has expectations of a quick turnaround, then that's what you're really going to want to talk to them about. If you know what their goals are in mind, frame everything towards those goals. Keep those in mind about your audience. And also keep in mind the receiver-sender relationship. How are you related? Is there a power differential? Is this a downward message? Are you the boss telling a subordinate? Are you a supervisor talking to one of your employees? Is it an upward message? Are you going to the boss to suggest something is going on? Or is it lateral? Is it colleague to colleague? How the power differential plays in, again, will manage your tone. You might speak a little bit more formally with someone above you. You may speak, if you're speaking downward, you may not use as much jargon. If you're speaking laterally, you can jargon all day because you all are speaking the same language. And also think about the social distance. Do you have a personal familiarity? Do you have a personal relationship? In my case, we have a very small workforce in the library, and I am pretty much familiar with everybody. So they'll get my little jokes, they'll get my inside jokes. But if I'm going out to the larger staff community, they won't. So I have to be aware of that and tailor how I'm speaking to those people. You also want to consider the cooperation level. So upward messages to people with low familiarity or have a negative familiarity, so that means they know you and they know they don't like you, you're going to get low cooperation, and you're going to have to anticipate that and frame how you speak and how you write a little bit differently. If it's a downward message, or you have a very high personal familiarity or low negative familiarity, so they don't know you and they don't know anything about you, so they don't know to not like you, you're going to get more high cooperation. So being aware of your audience is going to change how you say what you need to say. You need to give the same message, but anticipate what barriers they may have to you. Another thing to be aware of is audience readiness. How prepared your audience is to receive the message will also affect how you frame your message. So, what is their level of expertise? What is their ability to receive this message? Are they going to understand it? Are they going to understand the jargon? Are they going to know what you're talking about? Are they going to have the context of why you're talking to them? And also keep in mind the sensitivity of the message. What is the willingness to receive this message? Is it good news? Is it bad news? We all want to receive good news, but we have to be sensitive if we're going to give bad news. So in this basic, spectrum of things, not sensitive, willing to receive, you're getting a raise, you're getting more clients. This is a positive reaction. These are good things. That's an easy message to give out. You can say it however you want it. People are going to be happy with it. A more neutral reaction is just some updates. Here's some updates on our office renovation. You don't have to do anything too special. People really won't care too much either way. But if you have a negative reaction, the lost client, massive layoffs, you're going to have to realize that you're dealing with a sensitive issue with people who don't want to get this message. So how it's going to be framed is going to depend on where we fall in this spectrum. So here's the little chart to keep it in mind as well. So we have our expertise, and we have our sensitivity. So on the top, we've got our experts. The bottom, we've got our non-experts. Experts would be colleagues. They would be superiors. They would be other, tax professionals. A non-expert could be, for instance, in our assignment, the chef or the gym owner or anyone we're working with, any of our clients. They're experts in their field, but they're not experts in accounting. So they're not going to understand some of the messages that you'll be sending. And then also keep in mind the sensitivity can go along the other axis. Not sensitive information, just basic updates, versus sensitive where, we might be having to give bad news. We might be telling an expert, a colleague, about some bad news about the company. We could be giving our clients some bad news about his or her business. How we talk to those people is going to be very different. I also think of it this way. If you're an expert, you're able to receive the message. If you're not an expert, you're not able to receive it. You're going to have to be a little bit more careful to make sure that's understood. If you're giving good news, it's not sensitive, they're willing to hear it. You're not going to have to work too hard for that. But if it's a sensitive issue, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to make sure they get the message. So again, the most ready to accept are experts getting good news. That's the easiest communication you'll ever have. But you're often going to have people who are not experts in the field who need to get bad news. Why are you being audited? Why can't you make this deduction? You're going to have to carefully explain that, knowing that they're not going to want to hear it and they're not going to really know. You have to be careful there. We talk again more about persuasion when we move on, but again, this is basically what I was just saying. The easiest message you ever have is you don't have to give a lot of information and you don't have to persuade. That's going to be an expert getting non-sensitive information. If you're going to need your client to make a really difficult choice, you're going to need to be very persuasive and give a lot of information. So just keep in mind of that axis. I'll put an image of this on Moodle. So, to summarize, when thinking about and writing for an audience, especially in the business world, don't include a lot of filler. Get to the point quick. No dramatic lead-ups. What's happening? Here's why. There's no. You don't want to just flat out say, do not do. Instead, frame it in a more positive way so that we don't get defensive. And also, know me. Keep you out of it. Really think of the other person. What's in it for me is what the reader is thinking. And also always keep in mind demographics, the traits, the values someone has. Who are you speaking to? What will speak to them? If they're working at a religious institution, perhaps you can think of the traits and the values that reflect on them. What is the power distance? What's the relationship you have? Are you even power? Are you speaking in a upward or downward direction? And what is that person's readiness to hear it? What's their expertise and what is their sensitivity? You should always, whenever communicating with someone in a written word in the professional environment, keep these things in mind. How can I speak to this person? You already know what you need to say, but it needs to be written for the audience who needs to see it.